Yeah. So this will be part 2 about the Japanese bear dog, the Akita. Um. So like my experience with that Akita showed me, some different stuff. One thing it did is, well, it showed me that there is a lot to having a pack animal breed, a lot more, and a breed of dog. Like it is super intensive shit. It is not just you don't just go get a pit bull and be like, yay, I have a pit bull. And I've seen people do that. I've seen people, they'll get a pit bull mastiff puppy, and then it's just like, and they don't know nothing about caring for him or anything. And then that pit bull mastiff ends up being the alpha, and it does whatever it wants. It doesn't listen, or it only listens when it feels like it, and this and that. And it's unfair to that dog. That is unfair to the dog, to allow it to take an alpha position in the pet owner pet relationship. Like, it's totally unfair to those dogs. It's in and but anyways, so see, that's the mistake. The mistake that is common is that people, they don't even know what they're doing when they get a pit bull mastiff or any kind of breed like that. They just think it's like having a cat, or it's like having any other kind of dog. It's like having a poodle, except for that it's bigger, and et cetera, et cetera. So you don't understand that these breeds think differently than a poodle or some kind of dog like that. And also, because they're very intelligent, they require a lot of engagement, like intellectual engagement. It's like a massive responsibility. It's like having a child. I mean, in so many ways, it's like having a child. Only maybe even more so, because the child will never grow up to, a child will grow up and learn how to become more independent, whereas an animal like that, it's not, you're just gonna have to take care of it for the rest of its life, more so than you would a child. At some point, the child will finally get old enough to where, it doesn't need to be tended to, etc., etc. But anyways, but so talking about like, like that Akita bear dog. If a person isn't aware and consciously aware of what they're doing in cultivating a relationship with a dog like that, they can allow that dog to assume an alpha type role in this relationship. And but like one of the common mistakes is to show physical dominance. So if I just beat the dog, then it'll learn that it's the beta and I'm the alpha, and that's not the way it works. And we see that, where they beat dogs and stuff and stuff, or they're that's not the appropriate way to establish oneself as the alpha in a relationship with a Akita Japanese bear dog, is by beating it into submission and punishing it. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're intelligent animals. They require engagement, intellectual engagement, and respect, and all these things. This is the same with the shadow archetype. See, a lot of times people assume that if they just beat their shadow archetype, they'll beat their shadow archetype into submission, and then it will assume its role as the beta. And that is definitely not how it works, any more than with a pit bull or any of these kind of breeds. And this is all based in like super ego. Like, people people allow their super ego to be like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I don't need any direction. Oh, this lady's telling me that don't look at the dog, don't touch the dog, don't talk to the dog. Oh, I've been around dogs all my life. I know more about dogs than this lady does. That's super ego. Like, a person has to have humility, and not that I'm patting myself on the back that I have a lot of humility. I guess, though, I have learned to just be humble and accept direction on things that I'm not very familiar with, right? And I am not familiar with Japanese bear dogs. And so I was totally okay with taking her direction, And she was exactly right. It was like, I can't even describe how amazing it was, because, so if you refer to my last video where I waited until the dog just lightly nuzzled me on the knee with its nose, and then I looked at it and pet it and addressed it by its name and stuff, it immediately became loyal to me and obedient and loyal. Immediate. It was unbelievable. And she warned me that if I didn't do that, it would not be obedient or loyal to me at all. It would assume that it is the alpha. But because I took her direction and made this conscious effort to do these specific certain things, by doing that, it got immediate results. Like, as soon as that dog's nose touched my knee, that was the dog's way of saying that I am loyal and I am obedient. You are the alpha. And it doesn't require like beating something into submission and all these things. And this is like a common misconception with people who aren't conscious about their shadow archetype. If a person isn't conscious about their shadow archetype, they will beat it into submission. That's what suppressing it, ignoring it, suppressing it, denying that it exists, that the shadow, this is all like beat it into submission, like force it. And that, just like it wouldn't work with these breeds, it won't work with the shadow archetype. It requires like healthy integration, healthy interaction, and respect. Like, a person has to respect their shadow archetype. But and just as immediate as that Japanese bear dog became immediately obedient and loyal to me, it's the same with the shadow. The results, if a person is conscious and actually makes a conscious attempt to integrate their shadow, the results are like that. They're like that amazing, where it's like, whoa, there's this book, this guy kind of goes into his own kind of interpretation of the shadow archetype, and I like his analogy. The way he views his shadow archetype is, what he does is he builds a big internal prison cell for the shadow. But instead of it being like cold walls, with just a typical prison cell. No, he makes it fucking nice. Nice big TV, cable television, internet, a refrigerator with some drinks, and makes it like this really nice, comfortable place for the shadow archetype, instead of like, a cold cell like you would see a typical prison cell, No, he treats his shadow like really good. Like, even though he has to keep it kind of locked in, he has to keep it in place so it doesn't assume the alpha role, but he takes real good care of the shadow, and he treats it with respect, and that builds a relationship with the shadow archetype. And then he goes further into his analogy and says, that like, when he might be in a situation that requires standing up for himself or something, or defending himself in some kind of situation against a threat, and he can go to his shadow archetype and ask his shadow archetype, like, what would you do in this situation? if you're being threatened by a group of people. And then the shadow archetype would say, oh, well, I'd get a bunch of I'd get grenades and machine guns, and I'd fucking, do this and that. And of course, like, the shadow is gonna, it's the shadow archetype is like that Japanese bear dog. Like, it's gonna want to kill somebody. It's gonna fucking kill you. And so by going to the shadow archetype and asking for advice on stuff, of course it's gonna say, well, I'll fucking kill that motherfucker. I'll fucking shred that motherfucker, right? And of course you don't want to, but there's a lot of benefit to that, to that spirit, as long as that spirit is contained by reason and love and all these things, right? But so it's just crazy. Like, I forgot how, but yeah, no. But one of the main points I want to emphasize is people have a tendency, they see their shadow as a bad thing, and so they lock it up in a cold, dark prison cell, and just feed it scraps and like spit on it and kick it, and fuck you and stuff. And that is how you are gonna fucking, your shadow is gonna, it's just gonna hate you. Your shadow archetype is gonna want to fucking kill you. Just as if you were to do that to like a breed of dog, like a wolf or something. It might pretend to be loyal to you, but only because it doesn't want to get beaten by you. But at a first opportunity, it's gonna fucking turn on you and it's gonna fucking kill you, dude. Whereas if you treated the wolf with the respect that is due to it and stuff, it will become a loyal partnership in a beta role. Like, it won't assume the alpha. So, like, for example, when somebody would come to my door and I had that Akita, it would fucking like trip. It would be like ready to kill somebody. Now, it wouldn't do that, but its instinct is to protect me. So its first instinct is to protect me. That's all it is, right? And but because of the healthy relationship, it's not totally out of control. Now, if there was somebody threatening me on the other side of the door, and the door opened, and the dog sensed the threat, the dog would fucking assume its role and go and fuck that dude up, whereas I wouldn't be able to, right? Like, that dog is way more effective at killing a motherfucker than me. Like I said, that dog could have easily killed me, but it still accepted its role as the beta. Even though in a scenario like that, that dog is the alpha, man, over me. Like, that dog is a much more effective killing machine than I am, but it's the beta. And this is what I mean, how shadow archetypes can be really advantageous if there is a healthy relationship cultivated. But that means, like, treating it good. And, while at this, just like treating like I was saying, like, it's not fair to allow a Japanese bear dog to believe and think that it is the alpha in a relationship, because it's not fair to the dog, And it's the same with the shadow archetype. It's not fair to the shadow archetype to allow it to assume an alpha role in a person's structure and stuff, psychological makeup or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But at the same time, just like if somebody were to threaten me, that bear dog would assume its beta role and as an effective killing machine, kill that person who is trying to kill me, way more effectively than I could. Even though it is the beta. Do you see what I'm saying? This is how the shadow archetype works. I mean, I'm not promoting killing people or anything like that, but to abuse the shadow is not going to be advantageous to the person. So if I treat the shadow archetype within me with like, anger and aggression and forcefulness and abuse, that's only going to make it worse. And that's how people end up going postal. Because if I were to suppress that Japanese bear dog and ignore the Japanese bear dog and punish it, treat it like it's a bad thing, like it's just a bad thing, then we're not going to have a working relationship at all, you know. And the dog's just going to be miserable, and it's not going to be obedient and loyal, not at all, you know. So, and it's the same with the shadow archetype, dude. I have got like no fucking privacy here. This is fucking driving me nuts. But anyways, motherfuckers just walking past my front door all fucking damn fucking. But anyways, and that's a common mistake. And people do these things subconsciously, not consciously. People subconsciously suppress their shadow archetype. They subconsciously ignore their shadow archetype. They subconsciously deny and reject their shadow archetype. And it would be the same thing as if I subconsciously ignored a Japanese bear dog that I was living with, and I subconsciously denied the Japanese bear dog, and I subconsciously rejected it. You know, it's the same fucking thing all the way around. And people have very little understanding of dog breeds like this. They have very little understanding. And you'll see like people that are not consciously aware of what they're doing, and they'll go get dogs like this. I've seen it happen. We've all seen it. They get these big breed of dogs because they think it's cool and it's going to impress their friends to have a pit bull. And it's not fair to those dogs. Like, it's totally unfair to the dog to have a dog owner that's not consciously aware of what's going on with their dog. And it's the same with the shadow archetype. If a person isn't consciously aware of their shadow archetype and making conscious decisions and stuff with their shadow archetype, it's not fair to the shadow archetype. And the shadow archetype will react and retaliate, you know. I mean, I know people can think that like shadow archetypes and all this stuff, it's all bullshit and everything. It's actually not, dude. It's actually not at all. It's the same as if I were to get an Akita bear dog and just be like, oh, all this advice and direction, it's all bullshit. I know how to take care of dogs. I'm not stupid. You know? Again, it would be like if that lady, when she told me, don't look at the dog, don't touch the dog, don't talk to the dog, and I said, oh, this lady, she's stupid. Women are so dumb, you know. I know how to take care of a dog. Don't you worry, lady. I got this under control. You know, that's just stupid. And that's how people treat their shadow archetypes. Is, oh, that's all bullshit. Shadow archetype. I know how to take care of myself, you know. And then they end up going postal. You know, these people, they just go postal and they start shitting the bed, and they're fucking, you know, shooting up McDonald's and doing all this crazy, like just being stupid, you know, joining Illuminati death cults and witch cults and thinking that it's clever and smart and, oh, I know what I'm doing, you know. Like, you see this all the time. These brain dead people, they're not conscious. They're not conscious of what they're doing at all. See, like, I'll show you, like, this is a long video, but whatever. So I'll show you an example of what I mean. Like this description is a really good, is worded really well. This thing that I'm going to pull up. It's Gnostic Young. I believe. Let's see. This is it. This description, like, is very well worded description. If you will bear with me here, on consciousness versus being conscious versus not, the difference. And this really separates, like, the sheeple. The sheeple are the people that are not mindfully aware. They're not conscious. You know what I mean? Like, that's what a sheeple is, someone who isn't being mindful, isn't really paying attention. They're just, okay, so it's right around here. Let's see. Bear with me. I'm trying to find it here. I'm sorry. Again, put this at ×2 speed because it'll help. Okay, let's see. Why can't I find it? Oh, I think I know why. Okay. What in the world are Gnostics? Okay, here we go. Where is it? I apologize. Why can't I find it? Again, bear with me here. What in the world are Gnostics? The word Gnostic, Gnosticism, ignoramus. Gnosis means to know. We all have innate knowledge, just like the Akita bear dog's innate instinct to be the alpha. But despite what people may want to believe, humans are more. Humans do have the observable characteristic of being more consciously aware, and that's why people take care of dogs. That's why the relationship between an Akita bear dog and a human is so important, because if you love the dog, you have to be the alpha, and the dog has to understand that they're the beta. Okay, here it is. Here we go. So this is what I'm talking about. Like this is a good description of the difference between a sheeple and someone who's not a sheeple. Okay. The Gnostics differ. So sheeple, the difference between a sheeple versus someone who isn't a sheeple. Okay. They differ from the majority of humankind, not only in details of belief and of ethical perception, but in their most essential and fundamental view of existence and its purpose. Their divergence was a radical one in the sense of the word, for it went back to the root of humankind's assumptions and attitudes regarding life. Irrespective of their religious and philosophical beliefs, most people nourish certain unconscious assumptions, okay? There's the difference between consciousness and unconsciousness. Like, sheeple are unconscious. So sheeple nourish unconscious assumptions pertaining to human condition, which do not spring from the formative focused agencies of consciousness. So sheeple don't really act in consciousness. They're acting on their subconscious. Okay, and let's go on. But which radiate from a deep unconscious substratum of the mind. So sheeple's functioning radiates from a deep unconscious substratum of the mind, the subconscious. This mind is ruled by biology rather than psychology. So the sheeple's mind is all based in biology and just are not even consciously aware of the psychology of their mind. Okay. Their mind is, a sheeple's mind is automatic rather than subject to conscious choices and insights. The most important among these assumptions, which may be said to sum up all others, is the sheeple's belief that the world is good and that our involvement in it is somehow desirable and ultimately beneficial. This sheeple assumption leads to a host of others, all of which are more or less characterized by submissiveness toward external conditions and toward the laws which seem to govern them. In spite of countless illogical and malevolent events of people's lives, the incredible sequences, byways, repetitious insanities of human history, both collective and individual, the sheeple will believe it to be incumbent to go along with the world, for it is, after all, God's world, and thus it must have meaning and goodness concealed within its operations, no matter how difficult to discern. Thus, we as sheeple must go on fulfilling our role within the system we can, being obedient children, diligent husbands, dutiful wives,
well-behaved butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, hoping against hope that a revelation of meaning will somehow emerge from this meaningless life of conformity. Not so, said the knower. So a sheeple will never have a conscious awareness of their shadow archetype. This is the problem with sheeple, is they never acknowledge their shadow archetype. They don't want to acknowledge that they have this within them, and so that's why they ignore it, they suppress it, they deny it, and abuse it. Just like the dog, like that woman telling me, this is what you need to do in order for that dog to understand that it's the beta and you're the alpha. This is what you need to do. See, a sheeple would just ignore that woman and say, oh, I know how to take care of dogs, whatever, and they wouldn't listen. And then as a result, the Akita would just not be obedient and loyal. I mean, I'm telling you, it was so amazing to see that immediate transformation with that Akita bear dog, where it immediately became loyal and obedient to me. Immediately. It didn't take a couple days or a week or what. No, it was immediate. As soon as that dog touched my knee with its nose, it was immediate transformation. And it was because I was conscious, and I made a conscious effort to do what that woman told me. Don't talk to the dog, don't touch the dog, and don't look at the dog until the dog makes initial physical contact with you first. Do not do these things. You have to be conscious. You have to consciously do this with this dog. And if you do not, the dog will not understand that it is the beta. Okay? And this is the same with the shadow archetype. It has to be a conscious effort to integrate the shadow. It can't just be like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Fuck this, fuck that, blah, blah. This is how people allow their shadow archetype to become the alpha. And again, that would be like me allowing that bear dog to be the alpha in my relationship with it. No one who owns a dog wants that for themselves or the dog. No one does. But sheeple are so unconscious. They're so unaware. They just like, well, everything is just whatever. And so they don't understand. And sheeple are the ones that usually own Akita bear dogs and German shepherds and stuff. And they don't make any conscious effort to integrate a healthy relationship with the dog. They don't know how. They don't even know that the dog is a pack animal with pack animal instincts. They don't even know that. They just think that because they're the human and the dog's the dog, that the dog will understand it's the alpha. And they won't be able to recognize when the dog is assuming that it is the alpha. I see it all the time. Like, people own dogs, and the dogs, I can see that the dog doesn't understand that it's the beta, and then the dog owner doesn't understand that the dog is unaware that it is the beta, and then the dog takes off running, or it jumps up on somebody, or this and that, and when you got like a breed like that they're like literal killing machines. They can much more efficiently kill somebody than people oftentimes can. The shadow is the same. The shadow archetype is the same. The shadow has the animal instinct of a pack animal, and it doesn't understand. And so a person has to integrate their shadow archetype and have a healthy relationship with the shadow archetype. And a healthy relationship is not abusing it, like abusing a dog, or that's how I'm going to show the dog that I'm the alpha, is through aggression and abuse and this and that. That's not the way it works with the dog, and it's not the way it works with the shadow. But going back to sheeple don't even have an awareness of their shadow archetype at all. So because they don't even have an awareness of it, they're not doing nothing. They're not addressing the shadow archetype or nothing. They're just thinking, oh, everything's cool. Like, whatever, man. And it's the same with the dog. You do that with a Japanese bear dog like that, you're gonna have you're fucking your own self. And it's the same with you have that same type of relationship with the shadow archetype. It's you're same. You're fucking yourself. Whereas if you have a healthy relationship, like with that Akita bear dog, dude, that thing was so loyal, so obedient, so well behaved, and so protective. Like that fucking thing was badass. And your shadow archetype is that badass and obedient and loyal and everything, depending on how a person interacts with it. And if a person isn't even aware that their shadow exists, that is not good. That is not good. You know, so it's just this is fucking crazy how this shit works. I don't know. But anyways, I am no master. I'm not a master. I just, it's just some stuff that I've learned from people that are smarter and wiser than me. And I just realized how that Akita Japanese bear dog is like, wow, that's exactly what the whole thing of, it's exactly identical to the whole concept of shadow integration.